Hello everyone, thanks for dropping by. I wasn't going to do another one of these Star Wars videos, but somebody in the last one I did put a comment in the comment section on the channel JNTAI FRDOS asked me to do another one. So this is it. The majority of the Star Wars information on the web that you will know of comes from a website called Wikipedia. That covers all aspects of the Star Wars fairy tale saga. But for those of you who are my age, you may recall there's another website which I'm surprised it still exists, called Star Wars Technical Commentaries. So I thought I'd do a little bit of expansion on sublight travel and the repulsor technology like I covered for the hyperdrive. The Star Wars Technical Commentary, which I've got on the screen now, and of course I'll put the link below, was written by a guy called Curtis Saxton, who's an Australian, and he has a PhD in astrophysics, so he knows what he's talking about. Currently I think he works at the University College London, but the contact information is for the Mullard Space Service Laboratory. I sent an email because there's a few things I'm not so sure on, but it bounced back as the address was unavailable, so I've sent an email to the staff services for the University College London, and I'm just waiting for a reply to see if Dr. Saxton still works for them. If not, I'll have to see if I can track him down and ask him those questions that I did on my email. Anyway, the technical commentaries covers most of the things you'll find in Star Wars. It helps if you have a basic understanding of the equations in physics, but if not, it's in plain English, so to get you to understand what's going on. One of them down here is sublight propulsion. Now, as you all know, the Millennium Falcon, the Star Destroyers, the Blockade Runner, the Rebel Transport and all the other starships come with ion propulsion for sublight travel. Now here in the real world, ions have been used for space probes, but nothing on the scale of the Star Wars spaceships, which is on first glance something that will never happen. But Dr. Saxton in the introduction gives a few insights as to how it might work in the near future, and how, combined with the repulsor coils, we could get access into space like they have in Star Wars. Thus space travel no longer restricted to a small, cozy, cliquey little elite cartel that has to go through months of training just to go 200-300 miles into space. Now, as you know, a ion propulsion engine works by ionizing a gas, mercury, xenon, hydrogen, whatever, anything that can be ionized, it can do it, and it throws out a charged particle beam, and it retracts the electrons there to stop a negative charge coming at the back. Well, it only gives 0.1 to 0.5 newtons of thrust in the real world, but the Star Wars spaceships can't work on that principle because it's just too slow. Dr. Saxton says the 3000 G acceleration in the endurance and activity, but if you eject it out the back at the speed of light, i.e. c, you get something called the Lorentz factor. Now, I did a bit of poking around YouTube and Wikipedia, and it says mass under the title Mass. Where is it now? At very high speed for subatomic particles, special relativity shows that energy is an additional source of mass. Thus, any stationary body having mass has an equivalent amount of energy. Shrink that down because back to dark, so it's not overwhelming me. So that means that if the ion stream is coming out that way, the energy, it says, an efficient ion drive provides maximum thrust while converting propellant. It emits a very small mass effluents at very high velocities. Ideally, the relativistic kinetic energy of the exhaust particle stream should vastly exceed the mass energy of the particles when they are at rest. That's with the speed of light. So if it's going out that end, the speed of light, you get more thrust than you get in a ordinary ion engine today. You're only getting 5,000 meters a second going that way. That's why the thrust is so low. So the faster it comes out that end, the faster the ship will go. Now, shrink that down. Wikipedia. He didn't cover repulsors, that's why I sent him one of the emails, just to find out what he thinks about them. It says, a repulsor coil has an integral component in the building of the repulsor lift engine. Fair enough. The repulsor coil was the component that produced anti-gravitational field. The repulsor coil uses a radioactive outburst to excite the electrons on the ground, disrupting the polarized thereby manipulating gravity. Yeah, well, I can't get my imagination around that. Bring that back up. The concept that I explained in the last video, I think, is more to do with how it would work as gravity comes in waves, the gravity waves. That's been proven in real science. Waves have a frequency. If you match the frequency with the coil, then in theory, to me, it'd be like poles of a magnet, and you know they just don't like each other. The acceleration, as I said before, you can either push something along, pull something along, or a combination of push and pull. Now the 3000 G acceleration, he says, in endurance and activity, would simply turn a human into a pizza. And this, where is it? Not there. There, about the TIE fighter, the pilot must endure acceleration forces 4,100 times stronger than Earth's gravitational pull. Well, that would turn any human into a pizza in a microsecond. But if you accelerate, that's because a fighter aircraft, it's all got the force in that one spot. So when it turns, the pilot's experiencing G-forces. The maximum they can do is 8 to 9. But the force on there has to be transmitted through this lattice work, the molecular lattice work of the craft. That's why you get stresses and strains. But if everything in that craft was accelerated at once, then that wouldn't happen. Going back to the work of Stan Deyo, here's an experiment for you. If you smoke, and get your friend to stand at the side, and after you've taken an inhale, blow some out and get him to measure how far it is from it before it dissipates. Now the next time you do it, try and make a smoke ring, a toroid, and then measure it again, see how far. The Standale's work is a toroid. Then instead of pushing your way through, you jet forward and you curl the force round. You simply create an opening like a toroid and you move into the gap. Now that is how I think the Star Wars starships can move at 3000 odd G to get off the planet. So you have the repulsors lifting the ship up and the ion engines high thrust going that way at the speed of light, energy paying more mass. So instead of just a micro amount of thrust as you get with ion engines today, you get a large amount of thrust combined with the repulsors, and the Millennium Falcon, for instance, can get off a planet and into space like they do in the movie, the fairy tale. Now, he also covers subliminal travel, i.e. hyperdrive. Where is it? It's where is it? There. It's under the heading hyperspace. It covers all the things that you need to know, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 contributors to this website. But apparently hyperspace travel is a straight line speed. The Lorentz effect, as I said, it's like a dimensional, not in normal 3D space, it's in another dimension, and you get to that by breaking the light barrier, which according to Standale, by injecting high frequency electrons that way, you make a hole in the pressure wave which the spaceship is building in front like the sound barrier wave, and you can slip into them, into the multi-dimensional. According to this article that he wrote, the swirling tunnel effect is real space, but because of the forward velocity of the ship Millennium Falcon, 9 million plus times speed of light, that's just the universe passing through the stars and galaxies. In the game Eve Online, when your ship goes into warp, you see a similar effect that the guys at CCP have coded into the game. They also have the Stargate physics, which I don't really like because you're restricted from point to point, but that's just the games of the mechanism. Anyway, on the hyperspace page, you got subliminal physics. Those of you, again, who are into physics, you will understand what he's going on about, because he explains how in the jump, kinematics and the star lines and the weight rotation, etc. Now, don't need that about mass anymore. If you type in, there's no search down. There's no search on Wikipedia. No. Never mind. I'll put all the links down below so you can have a look yourself. So, the ship is travelling through hyperspace. We've got the problem of time dilation that is known in Einstein relatively, you know what I mean. Dr. Saxton says the inhabitants could be in a stasis field, which means time essentially is slowed down or stopped inside the ship, So that's why you can get from point A to point B in the Star Wars galaxy, which, as I said before, to me is our galaxy based in the future, and that's how they don't age in the star travel, and you can zip around the galaxy in a few hours planetary time. Also, the ion drive, you notice, are going while the starship is in hyperspace. Dr. Saxton, is it Saxton? Yeah, Saxton also covers that. He says you have to maintain a constant velocity in hyperspace. If you lose energy, then the physics of superluminal travel means that the ship will go faster and faster and faster until it just disintegrates, and then each of the components will continue to go faster and faster until they're ripped apart down to the subatomic level. Now that is why the Millennium Falcon and all the other ships have a kind of field round them. Remember, ejected forward, round, like a toroid. Those of you who've read Star Wars novels will recall in the novel Han Solo at Star's End, right after the escape from the grain-producing planet, one of the characters in the novel killed the big black guy called Recon, and Han Solo found him out and he tried to escape and hid in what he thought was a safe place, but in fact was the airlock. Now, the passage in the novel, if I remember right, was after Han opened the airlock and blew him out the ship. Once he passed through the enclosing field, this person just ceased to exist. Well, he would, because his body just be ripped apart down to the subatomic level and he'd be gone. Poof. So that's why I think it's a push-pull method of traveling through space, especially through hyperspace. The ship lifts off from the Earth, planet, wherever, goes through into space and makes the jump via the hyperdrive, which, if you've seen the cross sections, you notice is only one component of the ship. It's the starships. They don't have just like an engine at the back like an ordinary rocket. All the components are all linked together with the navicomputer, the hyperdrive, the inertial compensators, which the 4,000, 3,000 G acceleration, remember? Everything has to accelerate at the same time, otherwise you just kill the crew in an instant and the ship would be ripped apart without acceleration. Anything else I wanted to comment on? No, I just thought I'd modify my last statement with things I've been able to find out and bring your attention to the Star Wars technical commentaries. Those of you who the name Saxon doesn't ring any bells, he's one of the main contributors to the Star Wars cross-sections book, which is why it's so interesting to read about what he says on his video, on his web page, because he has an understanding of the physics, and then the other contributors to those cross-section books, they transfer the physics into cross-section diagrams to explain the engineering behind those physics. I've not got the books myself, but I might get them in future to have a really good look at it, and I might do another one. If I get a reply from him after I've finally tracked him down, I'll do one, but it won't be talking to a camcorder like this. I'll do one just with the cross sections, because you can get the cross sections on the images section on Google, and I'll probably do one to explain a little bit more what I've just told you all, so you can more or less see what I'm talking about and I don't have to use my main glasses case. The three laws of Newton notably the second and third law, I don't think have been violated with the physics of Star Wars. If the repulsor coils can indeed, via frequency for gravity, can cut the craft round vehicle off from the gravitational pull of the planet and just hover it like two like poles over a magnet. Of course, the more power you apply to the coils, the more lift and repulsion there'll be. These two things, the reactor, he mentioned that it's not a fusion reactor. Fusion only produces about 0.5% of energy from the matter. It's not really that efficient. Antimatter matter is more efficient, but like in Star Trek, there's no dilithium crystals. But there is another method. Let's see what he says. Sorry about this, people. Book manager, bookmarks, got it down here. Is it power? Where is it? I've seen it before. Power technologies. Power technologies, 5 power shields, thrusters. Damn, where is it? Where is it? Power technologies. He explains what it could be. I'm not going to do that. You can look for it yourself. The has to be an extremely efficient power supply, which means near annihilation, hypermatter, wherever that is. There's another method that doesn't need matter-antimatter, which